Hello, my friends. Uh, I'm going to talk about my book, which I took almost 17 years for writing. It's about a history book from Middle Age, from ancient, uh, I can call it from 6th century till 18th century, let's say 19th century roughly. So the book talks about the Arabic world and South Asia and Central Asia. Then how Islam was born and how it spread in Europe, Asia, Africa, specifically how we got Muslims in South Asia. So this is the topic, and the book is called Turkish, Afghan, and Mughal Era. So the book starts. The reason of writing the book is I had a classmate. His name is Hari Krishna. It was I'm talking about 1992. So we had a debate about uh, Hindus and Muslims and Christians in India, and then he came up with a stupid argument that Aurangzeb converted everyone to Islam, even though we have enough evidences of Raj Singh, Maharana Raj Singh, Chhatrapati Shivaji, and others, Maharaj Chhatrasal, and Ahoms, Chakradhwaj, all these are there. But this idiot didn't want to accept any of these facts. So there are some idiots in our society who would always think like fools, being a fool himself. So anyway, this fool has given me inspiration to write the book, so I did it. So I will talk about the book. The book is divided into 7 chapters. Chapter 1 starts from 570 CE, the Common Era. It goes all the way to 1196. And let's say 1206. 1206 is the time. That is the chapter 1, the death of Muhammad Ghori. So that's 1206 according to some, and 1196, 1192 according to some, whatever. But still, we have some proof that it is 1206. 1206, after death of Gori, you got slave kings. That's Afghan kings. So they call it Sultanate period. They call it Sultanate period. The modern historians. But anyway, most of the dynasties that ruled came from Afghanistan. So I called it Afghan kings, traditional name which I gave, rather than called it Sultanate period. So I didn't call it Sultanate period, I called it Afghan kings. Then comes the third chapter is, I mean, the second chapter is about that. It ends at invasion of Babur in 1526. So all the dynasties that has ruled over Delhi, that's again concentrating on Delhi. And the empires, or I don't call them empires, the small peripheral areas which they ruled, except for Khilji, Alauddin Khilji, who conquered all the way to Rameshwaram. The rest of them didn't do that. The third chapter is Kazakh Khanate. How did Central Asia become an Islamic country, Islamic countries, let's say. So that's again starts with 15th century, the formation of Kazakh Khanate. Before that, how they were Islamized. Only a few sentences I wrote about it. How Arabs influenced in China, how Arabs settled in China. So Chinese and how Arabs helped Chinese against Taiwan. Uh, Sorry, not Taiwan, Tibetans. So all these wars that went on. So at that time, I mean, it's only a few sentences, not the whole history of that. But the whole concentration is about the formation of Kazakh Khanate. In chapter 2 itself, you will see Chengiz Khan. And Chengiz Khan's descendants is not Genghis Khan as the Westerners pronounce it. It is Chinggis Khan, the pronunciation of Mongols, the Mongolians. So we call it Mughal. That's okay. So how it all went on, the descendants of Genghis Khan, how they ruled this area, and how Central Asia was in those days. And because Babur comes from Central Asia, he comes from Uzbekistan, but the major crust of Uzbekistan was in the hands of Kazakhs at the time. So that was, and then also of course I gave Uzbek history also in chapter 4, a brief history of Uzbekistan, because we shared Kazakhs, and Uzbekistan was part of Mughal Empire. Therefore, I had to give that. So that was given in chapter 4 when I started writing about Mongols. So their connection with the Mughal Empire, because they are related. And also we see we have got chronicles coming from Kazakhstan to India, and of course I give you the sources later on. So that is one thing. Then comes the chapter uh, 5, which is Muslim kingdoms of South India. During the Tughlaq reign, Bahmani Empire and Vijayanagar Empire, within the gap of 11 years, were formed. So they were at war with each other. And the story is about how these empires fought and the area it extended, the cultural influence, and all this story comes in chapter 5. So the Bahmani Empire, how it was divided into 5 independent kingdoms: Barid Shahi, Imad Shahi, Qutub Shahi, Nizam Shahi, and Adil Shahi. Then Marathas also come into picture in this. But anyway, the whole chapter, in chapter 4 itself, I started introducing history of Marathas when Aurangzeb went to fight, and also Shah Jahan had to fight Shahji. So all this you will see in that during that time. I didn't write any separate chapter for Marathas, nor I wrote anything separately for the Northeast or even for Central Asia, Chhatrashal. So, but I wrote a separate chapter. The following chapter is about Rajput resistance. So, who fought from Rajasthan? That is a Mewar. That is Mewar kingdom, which was an empire initially under Bappa Rawal. Bappa Rawal was from 768. He conquered all the way Iran, Ipihan, and other places. He married Muslim women. He had even Muslim kids. That's what they say. So Naushera Pathans are descendants of Bappa Rawal. And from Bappa Rawal till now, the line is continuous and ruling the same place. Chittorgarh was the capital, Nagda, Chittorgarh, and presently Udaipur. So where you see the royal family of Maharana living there. Maharana Arvind Singh Mewar and Maharana Mahendra Singh Mewar are the two brothers who are the descendants of Maharana Pratap or Chhatrapati Shivaji, or whoever you wish to call. This is Sodia family. And that is a chapter. Then comes the last chapter, the seventh chapter. That is the chapter of Vijayanagar Empire, which not many people know, because only one or two pages or one or two paragraphs are told about this 250-year empire that protected South India from Islamization, from the barbarians. They were real barbarians, which you will know from the sources called quoted by Ibn Battuta, and also Kamparaya Charitram, wrote by Ganga Devi, the wife of Kamparaya, one of the brothers of Harihara Raya and Bukkaraya, the founders of Vijayanagar Empire. So he would go and uproot the Sultanate of Madurai, which ruled only for a short time. So they called themselves sultans, but thing is they were actually barbarians. That will be the last chapter. And present ruler is also Sri Krishna Devaraya. He is in Anagundi, and the family has shifted back to Anagundi, and it was part of Nizam's dominions. They were tributary to Hyderabad Nizam, but anyway, talking about the book, this is the introduction. Then